Because if you understood how to make the business more valuable for the future, you probably wouldn't be sitting here taking a readiness assessment. Quite frankly. I understand the tax implications of selling my business now or in the future. This, you absolutely need to understand the tax implications. For example, you sell a business for $1 million and maybe that business has some debt, so it's less the debt, but you certainly are going to have a tax liability. Let's assume, just for, shits and giggles, that's 30%. You're not walking away with $1 million. You're walking away with somewhere between, depending on debt, $500,000 and $700,000. So that's a significant difference than, what you think you're going to be walking away from. So you absolutely need to understand the tax implications of the sale at every point in time, because those tax implications and taxes change all the time, every single year. So capital gains and transfers and, is stock, LLCs, partnership, it all makes a difference, and it will reduce that final number that you're going to walk away with. I have heard that I could sell my business to someone who doesn't have sufficient money to buy my business. Now, sometimes, one of our options to answer this question is, this is a big concept and I'm sure it would not apply in my situation. Well, how could you possibly be sure of that? And the other interesting thing is, quite often this comes into play when we're talking about key employees and successor adult children. Because quite often, especially with a key employee, they're not going to have the money to buy a 5, a 10, a 20, 30, 40, $50 million business. And they're certainly not going to want to go into that kind of debt. But so, they're immediately written off as not an option. The successor children, the adult successor children, typically have their heads explode when they realize they're going to have to pay for the business that their parents just spent 30 years building. Well, of course they're going to pay for the business because that's your retirement. So there's often a lot of disconnect in the communication. But once we sit down with the adult successor child after the head is exploded, we put the pieces back together and we explain to them there are ways for people to buy a business even though you don't have any money. Okay. It is very, very doable. So it's a matter of understanding that there are options out there. Don't completely write off that key employee. Don't let the kids' heads explode until we've actually had the conversation and explored all of the options, because there are options out there. You just need to be aware of them. So don't write anybody off just because you think they don't have any money. I mean, we don't get too terribly deep in trying to understand your knowledge of all of these things, because obviously you're not, this is not your industry. That's not what you do. You're not supposed to be the tax expert. You're not supposed to be the exit planning expert. You're not supposed to be, the expert in all these other areas. That's what we do. We bring that together for you. But there are a lot of myths and assumptions out there that we're trying to debunk so that you understand. Just because your key employee, he may be the perfect person to take over your company, or, your kid is the perfect person. You've groomed them for the last 20 or 30 years, but you need X number of dollars and neither one of them have that. So, you don't have to just write them off. There is opportunity out there.